A significant winter storm is unfolding for many across the United States, but that is not our main focus today. More snow and more ice are on the way, and we will discuss who will be affected in this video. Welcome everyone, happy Saturday. It is November 29th, and we are certainly ending the month on a snowy note. I believe December will continue this trend as I am already tracking another winter storm approaching. This next system will affect many of you in the Northeast and the Ohio Valley starting in just a couple of days. Following that, we see more indications of winter weather potentially reaching even further south and east in about a week. And I will tell you, the primary theme has been this southward shift of the snow, and I expect that trend will continue over the coming weeks. If you are new to the channel, I would like to extend a warm welcome. If you have not already done so, please take a moment to like the video and subscribe for the latest updates. Doing so is entirely free of charge. It simply helps me understand what you find useful and allows me to hear about the weather conditions where you are watching from. Let us now take a closer look at the forecast beside me. This is the latest information from our European computer model, and it shows a very active pattern. You can see a great deal of atmospheric energy, several storm systems, and plenty of cold air nearby. For some, this will mean snow, and for others, it will be a very near miss, but that could certainly trend toward a snowier, icier outcome as we receive more data. But in any case, you can see quite an active pattern looks to unfold over the next 10 days, according to that particular model. Now, as for the situation right now, we already have winter storm warnings highlighted here in pink over much of Iowa, extending through northern Illinois, northern Indiana, and even into southern Michigan and southern Wisconsin, which are receiving quite heavy snow today. We also have some ice in other areas, creating a rather difficult situation. In addition, new winter weather advisories have been issued for the Appalachian chain from near Asheville, North Carolina, northward through Watauga and Avery counties. These extend up into southwestern Virginia and parts of West Virginia, where we could see some icing as early as overnight tonight and into early tomorrow morning. I am also expecting more winter weather advisories and possibly even winter storm watches to be issued for portions of the Mid-Atlantic and the Northeast later today and into tomorrow. So please be aware that those may already be in effect by the time you are watching this. The snow is certainly coming down heavily for many of us. Again, if you are in a part of the country that is receiving snow right now, please let me know how much you have gotten. It has been a very snowy day in Des Moines, Davenport, and Chicago. I recall Chicago did not get much snow last winter, but this year is proving to be a very different story with significant heavy snowfall. The same is true for Springfield, Illinois. Many people in these areas are receiving heavy snow. It is the same for northern Indiana and much of southern Wisconsin, with Minneapolis also seeing snow. Much of that snow is now moving into Michigan with rain to the south. Now, for those of you in parts of the Northeast, you are next in line for some of this snow. The question is who will see it and exactly how much? We can answer that question by examining the latest model data. For many folks in the Northeast, this storm will really be the appetizer to the more significant storm I am tracking for early next week. Nonetheless, some of you are still going to get snow from this first system. Let us look at the timing for you through the end of tonight, which is this evening as many of you are watching. The snow is still falling steadily for many of us. As we go later into the overnight hours approaching midnight, it will begin to taper off in Iowa and Minnesota. However, the snow will continue at a steady pace across parts of Michigan, the northern half of Ohio, and areas around Erie, Pennsylvania. Buffalo and the Finger Lakes region will also get in on some snow overnight tonight. When you wake up tomorrow morning, as I mentioned, areas in the mountains of North Carolina, particularly the highest elevations like Mount Mitchell, and extending up into southwestern Virginia and West Virginia, could certainly see some icy conditions from this system as some cold air remains in place. I can tell you that it is quite chilly here in the upstate of South Carolina, where I am still at my home for now, but starting tomorrow, I will be back in my normal studio setting. It is definitely cold out there, and some of that trapped cold air is due to a process we call cold air damming. We are absolutely going to get some ice overnight and into early tomorrow in those higher elevations of North Carolina and into the Virginias. As for the Northeast, it will be mainly a rain event for places like the District of Columbia, Baltimore, and really all along Interstate 95. But by the time we are getting out the door tomorrow, you will notice some wintry weather in upstate New York, northern Vermont, and New Hampshire. That also includes northern Maine, though I am not sure of the local term for that area. If you live near the Canadian side of Maine, please let me know if you have a special name for it. I know the coastal sections are called down east, but I would appreciate a geography lesson in the comments. By tomorrow afternoon, snow will still be falling at times. It will likely be on and off for many folks in the interior of the Northeast. We will also see some lake effect snow on the backside of this low pressure, bringing even more accumulating snowfall to portions of western Michigan and the upper peninsula. It could even sneak down into northern Indiana. It will be a showery, cold, and raw day along Interstate 95 from Boston all the way down through Connecticut and Rhode Island. This also includes Long Island and even down into New Jersey, Philadelphia, and the Delmarva Peninsula. But by the time we get into Sunday overnight and look toward your Monday, we will start to clear things out. But our attention then turns to the next storm brewing, and that one is going to help bring the snow line further south and east, including some rather large cities. Let us go ahead and review the snowfall totals for the next 48 hours, and then we will break down that next threat that is really going to increase the totals for some. Here are the snowfall totals to come from our current storm system. And please remember, this is going to be through tonight, and for some through tomorrow as well. I will also add that this is as of noon this afternoon. So please subtract whatever you have received since then from these totals. They are still quite impressive amounts, though. Upwards of perhaps even double digits here into portions of the shorelines through Wisconsin and Michigan. I believe northern Indiana, northwestern Ohio, and south central Michigan are still going to see a good half a foot or more of snow, as will the Chicago area. Many of you can probably expect another 3 to 5 inches or so. It is truly a winter wonderland out there, folks. It really is quite a sight to see some of the pictures on social media. Also, you can tag me on social media with your pictures. I will be happy to retweet or repost you if you want to do that on X, formerly Twitter, or Facebook. Feel free to tag me and I will give you a shout out. It has been a very pleasant early season winter storm here for much of us in the Midwest, and the forecast seems to have gone pretty well to plan for the Northeast regarding the snowfall to come. As I said, I am not expecting very much of anything along Interstate 95. Now, at the onset, could we start with a little bit of sleet or some very quick snow? It is possible, but any accumulation will likely be confined to the interior of the Northeast. That is at least with this storm. The next one is a different story completely, and again, I will show you that in a moment. But I think the higher terrains up here in the Tug Hill could get to half a foot or more, and the higher terrains of Vermont and New Hampshire could see maybe half a foot to a foot. But for the lower areas, we expect 1 to 3 inches with some 3 to 5 inch totals sprinkled in there. But nonetheless, it is still a wintry event that we are tracking here. Now, how about the ice? I am not seeing a tremendous amount of ice, and I do not believe this will be a significant travel concern down here in the mid-Atlantic. However, the higher terrains here of West Virginia, southwestern Virginia, and into the mountains of North Carolina will see some. This is especially true north of Interstate 40. You could get a glaze of up to 1/10 of an inch. Isolated spots could see 1/4 of an inch, but I am not expecting widespread power outages or travel concerns. But still, tomorrow morning, please take it easy out there. I know we have a lot of viewers in this part of the country, so be mindful. It is going to be a cold rain elsewhere in places like Charlotte and Raleigh. Just a good old-fashioned nice cold drizzle and light rain at times. All right, that is the current storm. We are finished with that one. The next one, however, is another complex storm to forecast, and then I have my eyes on another potential storm about a week from now that could be even further south than the next one. Let us go ahead and break it all down for you. Let's start by talking about the setup for this next storm on the way. We have seen some trends today further to the south and east, with some of the data indicating that more people in highly populated areas could get in on the snowfall. Let us talk about why this is happening. By the time we get to tomorrow afternoon, this is Sunday, November 30th during the afternoon and evening hours. We have a very clear connection shown here in blue to Arctic air up in the polar sections of Canada. That air is going to continue to work down into the northeastern United States. This is good news for 2 reasons. One, it is bringing cold air, which is obviously what you need for winter weather, assuming you enjoy it. Second, it is going to help suppress the storm's track even more. So that is going to help push that rain-snow line closer to the coast. That is what we have seen in some of the data today that is beginning to unfold. As that is happening, we start to get a new trough, which is a new system to develop, indicating again this big shot of Arctic air working southbound. Around that, we are going to get a piece of energy that develops around this trough. It is a little shortwave embedded in that cold air that is going to ride the boundary and likely produce a band of wintry precipitation. I think someone could get half a foot to a foot of snow out of this one. And again, this could affect some highly populated areas that have not necessarily seen a lot of snow so far this winter. We will talk about exactly who in just a moment. But that is the general setup in the upper levels, which we see with our 500 millibar height anomaly map. You can also see it in our vorticity map, which is another great tool to use for a setup like this when trying to figure out exactly where that rain-snow line will be. Here is the next storm by Monday afternoon. You can see we have this trough developing, bringing a bit of atmospheric spin, embedded along with it. I realize I have mentioned this before in several videos, but it bears repeating. When those areas of stronger energy, which you see as brighter colors, move across the Rocky Mountains, that movement helps to stretch the atmosphere's spin, making it much easier for a low-pressure system to form. This occurs for several complex meteorological reasons, but the important thing to understand is that it is happening. A low-pressure system will form, and the trough of low pressure in the upper levels of the atmosphere will continue to fuel that system. You can see the general path of this trough, and it is on this side that the upper-level lift will be situated over the surface low. That path is going to guide it right through the Ohio Valley and more broadly through the southeast. The upper-level support will move across the Ohio Valley, and eventually that pocket of energy will settle right along the northeast coastline. It is at that point that this storm is expected to strengthen significantly and produce higher snowfall totals. This is especially true for the northeast. For the Ohio Valley, the impact will be less significant because the upper-level support is positioned a bit differently relative to the surface low. However, once the system reaches the northeast, it is going to intensify, and I believe it will become quite a significant snowstorm for some of you. Now, let us look at this setup in more detail in one of our high-resolution models, and then we will discuss the potential snowfall and ice totals. All right, here we are. You can see the storm developing. This is at 7 o'clock in the morning on Monday or 12 Zed in Zulu time. We are seeing a band of snow beginning to develop over Kansas. Now, a new development we are watching in the models is a trend a bit farther to the south today. We may see some wintry weather as far south as Arkansas. It is certainly possible that a city like Little Rock could see some icing from this system. The primary band of snow, however, is expected to be over Kansas and into Missouri by your Monday morning and continuing into the afternoon. Now, the low-pressure system itself is initially forming down over the Gulf of Mexico, but there is enough lift spreading northward to create what we in meteorology call an overrunning event. This will result in a band of snow moving into Illinois, Indiana, and Missouri. This will not be like today's storm for folks in that area, but we will see that winter weather line move farther south. So, yes, places in the Ozarks could certainly see some winter weather from this, which would not be surprising at all. Then, as we move into the overnight hours of Monday around midnight, the low pressure continues to strengthen. It appears a solid band of snow will move right through Ohio, Indiana, southern Michigan, with Kentucky being a transition zone. I believe areas such as Louisville will see some snow with the ice line likely to the south of there. Once you get down toward Tennessee, it will probably be mostly rain. We also have to watch for yeast once again in the mountains of the Mid-Atlantic, including West Virginia, and potentially the mountains of North Carolina, which could see another icing event. This would occur overnight Monday into your Tuesday. And here we are by Tuesday morning. Now, this particular model is the RJ model, and it is a bit farther south than some of the others. But I am showing it because this has been the trend today. It does show a start with a wintry mix in Washington, D.C., possibly even up into Baltimore, with Philadelphia getting a bit of an icy mixture. It looks like all snow for Scranton. Harrisburg State College and much of Pennsylvania outside of Philadelphia appears to be quite snowy with this event. We are expecting mostly rain in the Delmarva region, as well as in Charlotte, Greenville, Spartanburg, and Atlanta. This is not quite the storm for those southern cities. As we continue, a significant band of snow moves through much of upstate New York and into the Hudson Valley. Connecticut, western Massachusetts, all of Vermont, and all of New Hampshire look to be getting snow. It also appears that nearly all of Maine will see snow from this event by your Tuesday morning, at least according to this model run. We will monitor any shifts in that rain-snow line, but the forecast looks fairly solid right now. Now in Philadelphia, I think it could start as wintry weather. Then, I expect a change back to rain there by Tuesday later in the morning and into the afternoon. New York City will likely experience the same thing, starting with a little bit of mixed precipitation before changing to rain. A city like Boston will be right on that dividing line by Tuesday morning and afternoon. Much like the other cities, it could start with a wintry mix, and then perhaps transition to more rain than anything else. For western Massachusetts, however, I believe this is going to be an excellent snow event for you all. I think much of northern Connecticut will also see a very nice amount of snow. As we move forward, that rain line does try to push north a bit, with the warm air moving in throughout the day on Tuesday, but it remains all snow. For western Massachusetts into Vermont, New Hampshire, and much of Maine. Then on the backside of the storm, it even tries to switch back to a bit of snow as the system pulls away. Something to notice is that the low pressure is not as well defined on Monday afternoon, but as you go through Tuesday, you can see that upper level energy begins to invigorate the system, and that low pressure really begins to intensify. So where we do see that snow, it could be coming down quite hard and heavy, which brings the potential for higher snowfall totals. This will also probably be a very wet snow, which could lead to some power outages and similar issues, and of course if we start with some ice, that presents its own set of problems. Now, that is just one model and one potential outcome. Let me show you some ensemble data, which looks at a range of possibilities to show you who has the highest chance of seeing snow, because one model does not tell the complete story. Alright, let's take a look now at some of that ensemble data. As I mentioned, I believe this is a better tool to use at this point, when we are this far out from the storm system. For areas in the Ohio Valley, I do expect a nice band of snow. You can see here how it begins to set up by Tuesday. There is a good signal for Kansas City to receive maybe a couple of inches, and the same is true for St. Louis. I even think portions of Kentucky could get some snow from this. Now, I do not believe this will be a major winter storm here. It will likely be more in the range of winter weather advisory criteria. We could certainly see some travel impacts, make no mistake, but it will be nothing compared to what many folks are seeing today, with potentially double-digit snowfall. I am just not seeing that with this setup due to some of that lack of upper-level support over the Ohio Valley. But nonetheless, a nice quick little not quittal. I seem to be inventing words here, but at the very least you can expect a quick burst of snow, a nice early season fast-moving event. But what about the trend? This is a slightly different map. What I just showed you was the latest run of our European ensembles. This map shows the trend. A couple of model runs ago, you can see where the bullseye for snow is. That is not what I wanted to do. Let me go back one more time. My apologies. We will get it right here. Let us see. All right, this was from a couple of model runs ago. Then you advance it to a newer run, and another, and another. As we step through the latest information, and I will back it up once more, you can see some consistency is emerging for sure. However, some of the latest runs are backing off a little on the totals, while also shifting the storm track just a little bit farther to the south. That is something to keep in mind for both the Ohio Valley and the Northeast. As I said, I think this one has pretty good potential. This is the same kind of map, and you can see the storm showing up here in the signal right around Tuesday. Tuesday will likely be the hardest hitting day. The European ensemble members, however, are a good bit farther south and east than some of the other data I just showed you. The ensemble indicates a pretty good burst of snow into northern New Jersey, through the entire state of Connecticut, all of Rhode Island, and all of Massachusetts. It even suggests nearly 6 inches of snow for Boston. That is probably overdoing it a little bit, but this is not an impossible scenario by any means. It even tries to bring snow down into Philadelphia with about a 2-inch average, and suggests about 1 inch or 2 for Baltimore and Washington, D.C. Now, I believe this is likely overstating the totals for these southern cities. I think it is more likely to be a quick onset of wintry weather. Could you get 1 inch of snow, sleet, and ice before it changes to rain? Yes, I can certainly see a scenario like that, but I have more confidence in this forecast farther north into Connecticut, Massachusetts, and Rhode Island. I do expect a heavier band of snow in that direction, and if the European model is correct, then yes, some large population centers like Boston and Providence, and even Hartford could be in line for a good little snowstorm. What does the trend look like? Well, let's go back a couple of model runs, and I think you can see that shift farther south and east even better here on the European model. Here is a run from a while ago, a newer run, and newer. As we keep going, you can see how that trend begins to emerge a little bit farther south and east. Here is a much older run. Let me go back and then I will move it forward. And yes, you can see it is very subtle, but there is a slight shift farther to the south and east. This could be good news if you are a snow lover in places like northern New Jersey, Connecticut, Massachusetts, and Rhode Island. The same is true for southern New Hampshire and Vermont. It is not looking half bad there either. This is definitely shaping up to be a nice early December winter storm for some folks who are feeling a little snow-starved. I have been reading your comments, and I have certainly seen them. All right, what about some other things to watch? Well, we have another storm potentially after this one, and we could also see some icing out of this current event. Let's go ahead and track both of those. Using the same tool here, the European ensembles, it does show a bit of an icing signal down into the Carolinas. Now this would be for the mountains of the Carolinas and the mountains of the Virginias. I do not think we will get any ice in Charlotte, Greenville, Raleigh, Spartanburg, or Atlanta. I believe for those areas it will be just a cold rain once again. But we could see some icing out in the higher terrains of Appalachia, which would not be surprising. There is also a little bit of a signal up here into Philadelphia, Washington, D.C., and Baltimore. As I mentioned, things could start out there with a quick burst of perhaps some sleet, then freezing rain, and then switching over to just good old-fashioned rainfall from this event early next week. After that. Now I am also keeping a close watch on another potential system further down the road. It is a bit too early to discuss specifics on this one, as we first need to see how the storm unfolds this coming Monday and Tuesday. However, we are seeing a signal for about a week from now around the 5th to the 7th of December. And if you have been following along, you may have noticed a pattern where each storm tracks a little farther to the south, as the next storm is a bit farther south from that. As this trend continues, it brings the possibility of winter weather hazards to more and more communities. I do see another system of interest developing. Looking at the Monday and Tuesday timeframe, this is the trough I showed you earlier, which is expected to move in. This is the system responsible for the snow in parts of the Northeast and the Ohio Valley before it moves out of the region. After that, we will be watching another area of low pressure that forms over the Rockies, which we refer to as a Baja low. At the same time, a significant mass of Arctic air appears poised to move southward. The question will be first, where and how far south will this cold air travel as it moves toward the Northeast? And second, what path will this Baja low take? Will it be pushed out into the southeast, or will the two systems merge? Or will the Baja low draw energy from the southern jet stream and move it across the country? Some of our forecast models do suggest this possibility for that time frame about a week from now. Again, this is certainly not a guaranteed forecast, and we are not predicting a major snowstorm at this time. It is simply a development that we will need to monitor in the coming days. You can see it clearly on the vorticity map, where the Baja low is quite well defined. It begins to gather energy over Texas, causing the southern jet stream to become more active. The combination of this southern energy with that cold air to the north is certainly a situation worth watching closely. You can observe how it collects that energy. In about a week's time, we will have significant energy in both the northern and southern jet streams. The critical question is whether these two streams will combine. The European forecast models indicate there is at least a potential for that to happen. Let's look ahead to next Thursday, which is after the current weather system passes. This is also after the storm early next week. We see an increased probability of accumulating snow over a 24-hour period in the Four Corners region, which then extends up into the Ohio Valley. There are even some chances appearing in the foothills of North Carolina and Virginia. As of now, the possibility looks quite reasonable for Indiana and Ohio as well. And please take a look at this. It is a very strong signal once again for the Northeast. New York City is already showing a 50 to 60% chance of snow, as is Philadelphia. We are also seeing very good chances for Boston, Vermont, and New Hampshire. The probabilities are also beginning to increase for the Washington, D.C. and Baltimore areas. So the pattern we have been discussing is continuing to hold. The forecast called for the snow to begin farther north, which it has done today in the Midwest. Then, for this coming Monday and Tuesday, the storm track shifts farther south, bringing cities like Boston and perhaps Hartford and Providence into the potential snowfall area. A week from now, it is possible the track moves even farther south, potentially impacting Philadelphia, New York City, Washington, D.C., and Baltimore. It is even possible that by the middle of the month, a snowstorm could affect the southeast. Of course, only time will tell, and nothing is definite yet. The last piece of information I want to share with you concerns freezing rain. We are also seeing a signal for that in about a week, with a significant cold air damming event possible in the Carolinas and some potential for icing as far west as the Ozarks. This is certainly a time frame to watch carefully, and I assure you I will be. Well, that is the update I have for you on this lovely Saturday. I will be back in my home studio tomorrow to record another video, and I'm also planning a live stream for tomorrow evening with BGWX. I will share all of the details for that once they are finalized, where we will be analyzing all of this active weather in great detail. I hope you all have a wonderful rest of your day. Please stay safe. If you are receiving snow, I hope you enjoy it. I would love to hear how much you have gotten in your area. I look forward to speaking with you all again next time.